On March 20th, 1995, five men walked into separate Tokyo subway trains during rush hour. Each carried an umbrella and a plastic bag filled with liquid. At precisely 8 a.m., they punctured those bags, dropped them on the floor, and walked away. Within minutes, passengers started collapsing. Their vision went dark. They couldn't breathe. Some started convulsing on the platform. By 9 a.m., 13 people were dead, and over 6,000 were injured. The liquid in those bags was sarin nerve gas, one of the deadliest chemical weapons ever created. And the men who did it? They weren't foreign terrorists. They were members of a Japanese doomsday cult led by a nearly blind guru who promised his followers enlightenment but delivered something far more sinister. This is the story of Aum Shinrikyo, the cult that weaponized religion, amassed a fortune, and almost brought one of the world's largest cities to its knees. To understand how a religious group ended up killing people on the Tokyo subway, we need to go back to 1984. That's when a yoga instructor named Shoko Asahara founded a small spiritual group in his apartment. Asahara was partially blind from birth, which his followers later claimed gave him heightened spiritual powers. He mixed Buddhism, Hinduism, and his own apocalyptic prophecies into a belief system that attracted young, educated Japanese people searching for meaning. At first, Aum Shinrikyo seemed harmless. They meditated, they practiced yoga, they studied religious texts. Asahara charged for these teachings, and the money started rolling in. By 1987, he had enough followers to register Aum as an official religious corporation, which gave him massive tax benefits and legal protections. But Asahara wasn't interested in peaceful meditation for long. He became obsessed with the apocalypse. He started teaching that World War III was coming, that the United States would attack Japan with nuclear weapons, and that only his followers would survive. He told them they needed to prepare, and preparing meant absolute loyalty to him. By 1989, Aum Shinrikyo had over 10,000 members in Japan and thousands more worldwide. They owned billions of yen in assets, including factories, compounds, and even a ranch in Australia. Asahara lived like royalty, while his followers donated everything they owned to the cult. And if you questioned him, you were labeled a traitor. Some of those traitors disappeared. One of them was Tsutsumi Sakamoto, a lawyer who was helping families get their loved ones out of Aum. In November 1989, Sakamoto, his wife, and their one-year-old son vanished from their apartment in the middle of the night. Police found Aum pamphlets at the scene, but the cult denied involvement. It would take 6 years before their bodies were found buried in the mountains. But even with a family murdered and suspicions growing, Aum kept expanding. Asahara convinced his followers that the Japanese government was corrupt and that he needed to create his own nation. He started recruiting scientists, chemists, engineers, people with PhDs from top universities. He told them they were building a utopia. What they were actually building was a weapons program. By 1993, Aum Shinrikyo had set up laboratories at their compound in the foothills of Mount Fuji. They weren't making incense or meditation cushions. They were manufacturing biological and chemical weapons. They attempted to produce botulinum toxin and anthrax. They built drones to spray poison over cities. And then they discovered sarin. Sarin is a nerve agent developed by Nazi scientists in the 1930s. A single drop on your skin can kill you in minutes. It shuts down your nervous system. You lose control of your body. You can't breathe. Your heart stops. It's one of the most agonizing ways to die, and Aum Shinrikyo made it in a warehouse using industrial chemicals and a recipe from a textbook. Asahara wanted to test it, so in June 1994, cult members released sarin gas in the city of Matsumoto. They targeted a residential neighborhood where judges who were ruling against Aum in a lawsuit lived. 7 people died, over 200 were injured. Police initially blamed a local resident who survived the attack, and Aum got away with it. That should have been the warning, but Japanese authorities didn't connect the dots. Aum was still seen as a fringe religious group, not a domestic terror organization. That mistake would cost lives. By early 1995, the police were finally investigating Aum. They had evidence linking the cult to kidnappings, murders, and illegal weapons production. Asahara knew it. He told his followers that the apocalypse was imminent and that they needed to strike first. The target would be the Tokyo subway system. The plan was methodical. Aum's chemists produced sarin in their labs and packaged it into plastic bags filled with liquid. On the morning of March 20th, 5 cult members boarded trains on 3 different subway lines that converged at Kasumigaseki Station, right beneath Japan's government offices. They carried sharpened umbrella tips to puncture the bags. The timing was coordinated to maximize casualties during rush hour. At 8 a.m., the attacks began. Passengers started collapsing almost immediately. One train operator saw people vomiting and convulsing in the aisles. He radioed for help, but nobody understood what was happening. Subway staff thought it was food poisoning or a gas leak. Meanwhile, more trains were pulling into stations, and the sarin was spreading through the ventilation systems. Emergency services were overwhelmed. Hospitals across Tokyo filled with victims who couldn't see, couldn't breathe, and didn't know what had poisoned them. It took hours for doctors to identify the chemical as sarin. By then, 13 people were dead, and thousands more had been exposed. The city was in chaos. The subway system, which carried millions of people every day, shut down. The Japanese government mobilized the military, and the media started asking the question everyone was thinking: who would do this? Within days, police raided Aum Shinrikyo's compound. What they found was staggering. Laboratories filled with chemicals, weapons stockpiles, cult members living in shipping containers, and enough sarin precursor to kill millions of people. Asahara had fled, but they found him 2 months later, hiding in a secret room built into the walls of one of Aum's buildings. He was sitting in meditation, surrounded by cash. The trials that followed revealed the full scale of Aum's crimes. Asahara and dozens of his top followers were charged with murder, attempted murder, and terrorism. Prosecutors presented evidence of at least 27 murders, multiple kidnappings, and years of chemical weapons production. Asahara showed no remorse. In court, he rambled about conspiracies and claimed he was being framed by the CIA. In 2004, he was sentenced to death. 12 other members received the same sentence. But Japan's appeals process dragged on for years. Asahara and his followers sat on death row for over a decade, while their lawyers filed motion after motion. The victims and their families waited. On July 6, 2018, Japan executed Shoko Asahara and 6 other Aum leaders. 7 more were executed later that month. It was the largest mass execution in modern Japanese history. The government said it was justice. Critics said it closed the door on understanding how a cult reached that level of radicalization. Today, Aum Shinrikyo still exists. After the attacks, the cult rebranded as Aleph and later split into another group called Hikari no Wa. Both claim they've renounced violence and Asahara's teachings. Japanese authorities don't believe them. The groups are under constant surveillance, their members monitored, their finances tracked. Some survivors of the attack have spent decades pushing for these organizations to be banned entirely. The psychological scars run deep. Survivors deal with PTSD, vision problems, and neurological damage from sarin exposure. Some can't work, some can't leave their homes. And the families of the 13 people who died that morning are still asking why it took so long for anyone to stop Asahara. The Tokyo subway attack changed Japan. It shattered the country's sense of safety. It led to sweeping reforms in how the government monitors religious organizations and handles domestic terrorism. And it left a permanent mark on a generation of people who realized that the greatest threat to their safety didn't come from a foreign enemy. It came from within. Shoko Asahara started with yoga classes and promises of enlightenment. He ended with chemical weapons and mass murder. That's the story of Aum Shinrikyo,